I want you to picture a close friend in your mind right now. You know, someone you used to text every single day or maybe see every weekend, but who you haven't spoken to in over 6 months. Bring them to mind. Got 'em? Now just notice how that silence feels. There wasn't some massive blowout fight, was there? Just this quiet, ever-expanding distance. If you're feeling a bit of a pit in your stomach right now, well, what you're experiencing is a psychological phenomenon called ambiguous grief. As trauma-informed therapist Artie Balani points out, when there's no clear ending or falling out, we totally lack a narrative. So instead of getting any sort of closure, this quiet, confusing sadness just kind of sits within us. We end up ruminating, asking ourselves, wait, did I do something wrong? Did they just stop liking me? To help clear up that confusion, today's workshop is broken into 4 quick parts. 1. The silent friendship fade. 2. Your brain's social limits. 3. Auditing your social circles. And finally, repairing and scheduling connections. All right, let's get into part 1, the silent friendship fade, and diagnose exactly how these adult relationships decay.
The platform Amico actually breaks this drift down into 3 distinct stages. You'll probably recognize these. Step 1 is reactive only. You still reply to their texts, but you entirely stop initiating. The friendship is surviving completely on their effort. Then you hit step 2, where plans dissolve. You both do the whole, oh my gosh, we should definitely hang out soon thing, but it's just a polite ritual. Nobody actually suggests a date. And finally, you land in step 3, the avoidance loop. It's been so long that reaching out feels, well, weird. You are literally too embarrassed by the massive time gap to send a simple text, and the friendship just quietly dies.
Moving on to part 2, your brain's social limits. Let's look at the actual biological reality of why this happens.
So, the crucial piece of the puzzle here is Dunbar's number, 150. Discovered by British anthropologist Robin Dunbar, 150 represents the absolute evolutionary limit of stable connections your prefrontal cortex can actively manage at one time. Think of your brain kind of like a smartphone with a strict limit on its RAM. When you start adding the heavy demands of a career, a romantic partner, maybe kids or aging parents, your cognitive capacity simply gets maxed out. You literally do not have the processing power to maintain every single friendship you've ever made.
And because of that limit, we're forced to allocate our time pretty drastically. Get this, we devote a massive 40% of our total social energy to our inner core of just 5 people. Then another 20% goes to the next tier of 10 people. To put that into perspective, 60% of your emotional bandwidth is spent on just 15 humans, which obviously leaves very, very little remaining cognitive energy for the other 135 people in your wider network.
Now you might be wondering, how on earth did our ancestors maintain these larger networks of 150 without totally burning out? Well, it comes down to a concept called social grooming. As human groups grew way too large for literal physical grooming, sitting around picking bugs off each other, language evolved as a cheap and highly efficient substitute. Small daily communications, sharing gossip, quick check-ins, that became the biological glue needed to hold those 150 connections together. In fact, Dunbar theorizes that without language, early humans would have had to spend nearly half their waking day just socializing to keep the group from falling apart.
Okay, let's roll into part 3, auditing your social circles. It's time to map your inner core versus that wider network.
For this audit, you really need to contrast your tight inner core of 5 with your wider outer circle. Think back to your college days or your early 20s. Friendships back then were mostly proximity-based, right? You were friends because you lived in the exact same dorm or worked the same terrible retail shift. But adult friendships, especially in that inner core, require a massive shift to values-based maintenance. Your inner core demands deep intimacy, shared values, and high energy investment. Your outer circle? That relies heavily on situational convenience. So if an outer circle friend moves across the country, the proximity is gone and naturally the friendship drifts.
And as you're mapping all this out, it is so absolutely crucial to normalize that different life stages act as natural sorting mechanisms. Look, if you are starting a family and your friend is off backpacking across the globe, your paths are diverging. Actually, scratch that. It's more like your daily realities are just totally different right now. Because of Dunbar's number and your limited energy, it is mathematically and biologically natural for some friendships to organically fade. It's not a personal failing on your part, for sure. It is just evolution.
Finally, part 4. Repairing and scheduling connections. Let's get you an actionable communication toolkit for the bonds you actually want to keep.
If there is someone you really want to pull back into your inner circle from the drift, the experts over at The Guardian suggest skipping the polite small talk and just directly asking this: are you just busy or is it me? I know it sounds a little bold, but it is incredibly effective.
This question is a total game changer.
because it directly attacks that ambiguous grief we talked about earlier. It just completely cuts through the weirdness of the slow fade. You see, social exchange theory tells us that we're constantly weighing the costs and rewards of our relationships. The ambiguity of a fading friendship is a massive, exhausting cognitive cost. Asking this directly removes the heavy burden of self-blame. It allows your friend to either honestly say, "Oh my gosh, I'm just so overwhelmed with work right now," or it creates a safe space for them to bring up a real issue so you two can actually repair it.
Here is another fantastic question to ask as you both navigate changing life stages. What's the most important way a person shows up for you? This is absolutely essential because, frankly, what they needed from you at 22 is likely vastly different from what they need at 32.
This works brilliantly because it helps you align your mutual intimacy needs. You might be beating yourself up for not initiating big weekend hangouts, but hey, maybe your friend's core need right now is literally just having someone to vent to on a phone call once a month. Discovering complementary friendship skills, where maybe you're the proactive planner and they're the active listener, stops you from projecting your own old expectations onto a friend whose life has fundamentally changed.
All right, let's pull this whole workshop together into a quick step-by-step checklist to finalize your audit. First up, identify your core 5 people. Second, acknowledge those life stage shifts without the guilt. Third, accept that proximity-based friendships are going to fade. Fourth, ask those bold, expert questions to match communication styles. And fifth, replace those grand, highly stressful, we absolutely need to catch up dinners with low-stakes touch points. Remember our ancestors and social grooming? Language is cheap and super effective. Send a quick photo, a meme, a random thought you had. It literally takes 5 seconds, but it maintains the cohesion of the group.
And to maintain those really deep bonds in your inner circle, follow these specific steps to just eliminate scheduling fatigue altogether. Step 1, find a shared interest. Step 2, set a fixed time and place. Step 3, commit to the routine. Seriously, whether it's a monthly pub quiz, a standing Thursday morning dog walk, or just a Sunday afternoon phone call, lock it in. By making it recurring, you remove the heavy cognitive cost of planning. You never have to send that dreaded, "So, when are you free?" text ever again.
So, as we wrap up this workshop, I want to leave you with one final, totally actionable challenge. Think back to that friend you pictured at the very beginning, the one you haven't spoken to in months. The research absolutely proves they will be way happier to hear from you than you think. So, who are you going to send a 60-second voice note to right after this explainer ends? Break that avoidance loop today. Pick up your phone and just let them know you're thinking of them. Thanks so much for joining me, and happy audio.